Have you ever noticed that as you get older, you feel less inclined to socialize? You might not even be able to pinpoint exactly why, but there's a growing sense that being around people isn't as appealing as it once was. Maybe you find certain conversations exhausting, or perhaps you just don't feel the same connection with others that you used to. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, avoiding people as you age is more common than you might think, and there are some powerful reasons behind it. In this video, we're going to explore 5 surprising reasons why people tend to withdraw socially as they get older, even when they don't consciously realize it. From shifts in priorities to emotional burnout, each of these factors can subtly push people towards solitude without them fully understanding why. But here's the good news. This doesn't mean you're becoming antisocial, and it certainly doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. In many cases, it's actually a sign of emotional growth and self-awareness. Make sure you stay with me until the end because understanding these reasons can help you feel more at peace with the changes you're experiencing and even allow you to make better decisions about how you want to interact with others moving forward. Now let's get started. Number 1, increased desire for peace and quiet. As the years pass, something shifts. The hustle and noise that once felt exciting or necessary now seem more like a distraction than a source of energy. Conversations that used to be entertaining, small talk at gatherings, gossip among friends, or meaningless chatter about things that don't really matter, start to feel exhausting. It's not that you don't care about people anymore, but rather that you value peace and quiet in a way you never did before. Take someone like George, a 72-year-old who spent most of his life surrounded by people, family, co-workers, neighbors, and lifelong friends. He used to thrive on being involved in everything, always willing to lend an ear or engage in conversation. But as he got older, he noticed that his patience for noise, interruptions, and shallow interactions started to wear thin. He found himself gravitating toward quiet mornings, solo walks, and peaceful evenings with a book instead of social outings that left him feeling drained. At first, he wondered if something was wrong with him. Was he becoming antisocial? But then he realized he was simply appreciating something that had always been there but had never been a priority: silence. So why does this happen? The brain's tolerance for overstimulation naturally declines with age. That means loud environments, chaotic conversations, and unnecessary drama become more mentally exhausting than they used to be. Studies show that older adults tend to feel overwhelmed by social noise faster than younger individuals, and as a result, they begin to prefer settings where they feel at ease rather than overstimulated. It's a shift from craving excitement to seeking inner calm. If this sounds familiar, it's important to understand that it's not a flaw. It's a sign of emotional and mental growth. With age comes the realization that not every conversation is worth engaging in, not every social event is a good use of time, and not every relationship needs constant attention. Protecting your peace becomes more valuable than filling your schedule with obligations that no longer serve you. For George, embracing this change was a turning point. He stopped forcing himself into conversations that felt like an obligation and instead spent more time with the people and activities that genuinely brought him peace. And instead of feeling guilty for wanting quiet, he learned to appreciate it. The truth is, as you age, your energy becomes a more valuable currency. You no longer feel the need to spread yourself thin, trying to keep up with every social expectation. And that's not loneliness, it's wisdom. Number 2, changing priorities and values. As time goes on, you start to realize that what mattered to you in the past doesn't always matter anymore. The things that used to pull you into social circles, career networking, fitting in, or simply going along with group expectations, start to feel less important. Instead, your priorities shift toward what truly adds meaning to your life, rather than what just fills up space. Think about someone like Margaret, who spent decades being the social glue in her family and friend groups. She never missed a birthday, was always the first to organize gatherings, and made it a priority to stay connected with everyone. But as she entered her 70s, something changed. She found herself craving deeper, more meaningful conversations instead of just catching up for the sake of it. She started prioritizing the relationships that felt fulfilling rather than those that just felt expected. Why does this happen? Over the years, life experiences shape what we value. The constant need to stay socially active, maintain appearances, or be everywhere at once fades. Instead, there's a stronger focus on personal well-being, emotional fulfillment, and relationships that feel genuine. Research even suggests that as people age, they naturally begin to filter out connections that feel shallow or one-sided, not out of resentment, but because their emotional energy is more selective. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It simply means you become more intentional about who and what you invest your time in. And that's actually a good thing. You're no longer trying to keep up with the fast-paced, surface-level interactions of the past. Instead, you're focused on quality over quantity, making space for relationships that bring peace, joy, and authenticity. For Margaret, this shift wasn't just necessary, it was freeing. Instead of stretching herself thin, trying to keep up with every single social expectation, she learned to embrace the relationships that truly nourished her soul. And as she did, she found something unexpected, a greater sense of fulfillment, less social stress, and more time for the things she genuinely enjoyed. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, emotional burnout from past experiences. As you age, you start to realize that not every relationship was as meaningful as you once thought. Over the years, you've likely been through disappointments, betrayals, or relationships that took more than they gave. And even though you may not think about these experiences every day, they shape how you approach people as time goes on. Take someone like Robert, a man in his early 70s who spent his younger years always being there for others. He prided himself on being the person people could turn to, the friend who listened, the family member who helped, the colleague who stepped in when needed. But over time, he started to feel drained. He began to see that many of these relationships were one-sided. He was giving his time, his energy, and his emotional support, but when he needed the same, he often found himself alone. This realization didn't happen overnight. It built up slowly after years of putting others first, and eventually, Robert started doing something he never imagined he would, pulling back, not because he didn't care, but because he was exhausted. He wasn't angry, he wasn't bitter, but he was tired of always being the one to carry the emotional weight. And here's the thing, this happens to a lot of people as they age. When you spend decades investing in relationships, you start to see who truly values you and who only keeps you around out of convenience. And when you realize that, your emotional energy becomes more precious. You no longer feel obligated to keep relationships alive that don't bring you peace. Psychologists call this emotional burnout, the exhaustion that comes from giving too much without receiving enough in return. It's why many older adults become more protective of their time and energy, not because they dislike people, but because they've learned the hard way that not everyone deserves unlimited access to them. For Robert, this shift was life-changing. Once he stopped trying to please everyone, he finally had space to prioritize himself. And instead of feeling guilty about withdrawing, he realized something important. The people who truly cared about him understood, while the ones who didn't slowly faded away. So if you find yourself stepping back from certain relationships as you get older, know this, it's not selfish, it's self-preservation. And sometimes choosing peace over obligation is the healthiest thing you can do. Number 4, decrease tolerance for superficial or negative people. As you get older, something shifts. You become far less willing to tolerate unnecessary negativity, drama, or shallow conversations. The things that once felt like harmless social habits, gossip, complaints, or people fishing for validation, now feel like a waste of your time. Take Linda, a 68-year-old woman who spent most of her life being patient with everyone. She had friends who constantly vented about the same problems but never changed anything. She had acquaintances who thrived on gossip, always talking about what someone else was doing wrong. For years, she listened, nodded, and engaged in conversations that, deep down, didn't interest her. But as she got older, something became clear. She simply didn't have the patience for it anymore. She started to recognize that these conversations drained her. They left her feeling frustrated instead of fulfilled. And one day, she found herself walking away mid-conversation, not out of rudeness, but because she no longer wanted to engage in something that didn't add value to her life. So why does this happen? Because as you age, you develop a stronger sense of what truly matters. The need to be polite for the sake of being polite disappears. You no longer feel the pressure to entertain negative people or force yourself into conversations that don't align with your values. Research even suggests that as people grow older, they naturally gravitate toward relationships that bring them peace, while pulling away from those that drain them. It's not about being rude, it's about protecting your energy. And if this sounds familiar, you've probably noticed something interesting. The moment you stop tolerating negativity, many of those relationships fade on their own. The people who relied on you to listen to their complaints, they find someone else to vent to. The ones who thrived on gossip, they stop including you because they can sense you're not interested. And this is where the real freedom comes in. Once you stop feeling obligated to engage in these draining conversations, you start filling your time with things that actually bring you joy. You find yourself spending more time in nature, reading books, or simply enjoying the quiet. And instead of feeling isolated, you feel more at peace than ever before. For Linda, this was a turning point. She stopped trying to force connections that didn't serve her and started focusing on the ones that did. And as she did, she realized something powerful. She wasn't losing anything. She was gaining clarity, peace, and a stronger sense of self. So if you ever feel like your tolerance for small talk, negativity, or unnecessary drama has disappeared, know this: it's not a bad thing. It's growth. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to simply walk away. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, a stronger sense of mortality and time. At some point, you start to feel it. The awareness that time isn't endless. It's not about fear and it's not about regret. It's simply the understanding that every moment is valuable and not everything is worth your time anymore. Take Richard, a 74-year-old man who spent most of his life putting off things for someday. He had friendships that weren't fulfilling, commitments he kept out of habit, and conversations that felt more like routines than real connections. For decades, he told himself that he had plenty of time to focus on what truly mattered. But one day, something shifted. He woke up and realized that someday is no longer guaranteed. This awareness changes everything. You stop feeling guilty for saying no to invitations that don't interest you. You stop chasing approval from people who don't genuinely support you. You start filtering your time more carefully, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that your time is the most valuable thing you have. And here's the interesting part. This isn't a bad thing. Research suggests that as people age, they become more selective with their relationships and experiences. It's called the socio-emotional selectivity theory, which basically means that when you know time is limited, you focus on what truly brings meaning. It's why so many older adults stop prioritizing large social circles and instead nurture just a few deep, meaningful relationships. This realization hit Richard hard. He started doing something he had never done before, choosing himself. He no longer sat through long, meaningless phone calls out of obligation. He no longer forced himself to engage in conversations that didn't interest him. Instead, he started waking up every morning with one goal: to spend his time on things that actually made him happy. And here's the truth. When you reach this point, everything changes. You start living more intentionally. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself. And the best part, you feel lighter, freer, and more at peace than ever before. So if you've noticed yourself withdrawing from unnecessary conversations, cutting out obligations that don't bring you joy, or simply choosing solitude over empty socializing, don't question it. It's not loneliness, it's wisdom. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this video, take a moment to reflect. Which of these reasons resonated with you the most? Have you noticed yourself stepping back from certain relationships or activities as you've gotten older? If so, you're not alone. This is a natural part of life, and it's not something to feel guilty about. It's growth. It's the realization that your time, energy, and peace of mind are precious. For many people, aging brings a newfound clarity. You start to see things for what they are. You no longer feel the need to explain your choices to others. You don't force conversations that don't flow naturally. And most importantly, you begin to understand that walking away from certain relationships isn't about isolation. It's about making space for what truly matters. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's this: your life belongs to you. It's okay to prioritize peace over obligation. It's okay to say no. And it's okay to let go of anything that doesn't add to your happiness. Because at the end of the day, you deserve to spend your time in ways that bring you fulfillment. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.